The relentless noon sun hammers the dusty main street of Silver Junction, yet no one dares move. Across from the saloon, Sheriff Dolan stands rigid, his coat flapping in the hot wind, one hand hovering near his Colt. 10 paces away, Aiyana clutches her 4-year-old son Nodin behind the water trough, her long braid whipped over her shoulder, eyes locked on Dolan's. Moments earlier the boy had ducked beneath the sheriff's horse to scoop a crust of bread that had fallen from a passing stage. Dolan seized him by the collar, cursing thieving Apache whelps. Now the townsfolk watch a standoff they never imagined, a starving native mother squaring off against the law. A rail whistle shrieks in the distance, scattering sparrows from the telegraph wires. The sound jolts Dolan. He jerks his revolver free. Before the hammer can rise, Thomas McCready swings a crutch like a club and cracks it against the sheriff's wrist. The gun clatters onto the boards. Gasps ripple through the crowd as Dolan pitches forward, caught by Deputy Finch. McCready's single leg trembles, but he holds his ground, blue eyes blazing. Helena Morales steps from the boardwalk, lifting Nodin into her arms while Aiyana remains rooted, chest heaving, fury warring with fear. Dolan, red-faced, spits blood, and vows to jail them all at sundown. No one speaks. The only sound is the hiss of locomotive brakes sliding to a halt beyond the freight depot. Aiyana feels every gaze upon her, judgment and pity mixing in the heat. She turns and, without a word, follows Helena toward the safety of the adobe-walled boarding house. Night falls hard on Silver Junction, the desert air turning sharp. Inside Helena's kitchen, the lamplight flickers over cracked adobe. The women sit opposite each other at a scarred pine table, while McCready leans against the doorframe, mending his broken crutch with wire. Helena ladles bean stew into tin bowls. The scent makes Nodin stir from exhausted sleep in his mother's lap. Aiyana eats slowly, aware of strangers' kindness but braced for its price. McCready breaks the silence. He lost his leg coupling cars east of Dodge, he says. The railroad sent him away with a pocketful of company scrip. Now he keeps trains running for half wages, dreaming of a claim in the San Franciscos once he's scraped enough silver. He studies Aiyana's face, softened now by lamplight, and tells her the sheriff will return with warrants. Helena adds that Dolan works for Ranch Baron Asa Whitlock, who wants every native gone before the planned spur line doubles land values. Aiyana straightens. She recounts the summer of dust that stripped the cornfields on the reservation, the agent who withheld flour rations to force families into distant agricultural schools. She walked 4 nights through canyon country, guiding Nodin by starlight, hoping the railroad town might offer work or at least bread. Her voice never trembles, yet the room feels colder. Helena reaches across the table, clasping Aiyana's hands. The boarding house, she says, needs cleaning and laundry done. Payment is modest, meals included. Aiyana nods, gratitude flickering but pride intact. McCready produces a tarnished pocket watch, listening to its hesitant tick. An eastbound freight leaves at dawn carrying payroll money for the Whitlock Ranch. Rumor says Dolan and 2 deputies will ride shotgun. If the money vanished, Whitlock's grip on Silver Junction might loosen, and Dolan's fury might be spent elsewhere. Helena glares. Thomas, she warns, one more scrape with the law will land you on a chain gang. But McCready's gaze is on Aiyana. He asks if she knows the dry arroyo north of town, the one locals fear after dark. Apache legends, they whisper. Aiyana does. She also knows the smuggler's trail that skirts it, once used by scouts. Silently, possibilities unfold between them. Payroll, passage west, safety bought with risk. Outside, coyotes yip beyond the stockyards. Aiyana carries Nodin to a pallet by the hearth. The child curls into sleep, the first with a full belly in weeks. She settles beside him, listening to the boarding house breathe. Helena's steps overhead, McCready's deliberate hammering as he repairs the crutch, the distant piano from the saloon playing a hymn no one sings. In the wavering firelight, Aiyana studies the scars on her palms, earned from digging irrigation ditches the government promised to fund but never finished. Honor, she reminds herself, is not surrendered, it is redirected. She closes her eyes and weighs the coming dawn, a sheriff's revenge, a payroll strongbox, a chance to carve a future from the desert's indifference. Sleep edges closer, but the mystery of morning keeps it at bay. Somewhere beyond the black windows, The locomotive steams, iron wheels cooling in the night, waiting for whatever hands will claim its cargo at first light. Whispers of dawn drift into the adobe boarding house as the desert sky bleeds from coal to copper. Aiyana wakes before the rooster, the faint smell of coal smoke already clinging to the cool air. She lays a blanket over Nodin, then slips outside. The street is empty except for tumbleweed husks and the crooked shadow of the gallows pole leaning over the jail. Far off, a telegraph key clacks out its urgent code, the message unreadable but ominous. She crosses the yard behind the boarding house to pump water. Each squeak of the handle seems loud enough to rouse the town, yet no curtains twitch. While the bucket fills, she studies the low ridge north of Silver Junction. Sagebrush glints silver under the rising sun, marking the dry arroyo Thomas spoke of. A chill works beneath her shawl. Opportunity and danger appear equal in length and shape this morning. Inside, Helena stirs coals into flame and hands Aiyana a mug of black coffee. The older woman's eyes are puffy from too little sleep, but her voice is firm. If Thomas asks you to follow his fool schemes, you tell him no. Helena's warning hangs in the steam, yet she presses 2 wrapped tortillas into Aiyana's palms and thanks her for staying. They work in tandem, laundry tub filling, floors scrubbed, a stew begun, while outside hoofbeats echo down the plank street. By mid-morning, Sheriff Dolan limps into the doorway, wrist bandaged, hatred unchecked. He smells the stew, sweeps the room with cold eyes, and delivers his terms. By sunset, the squaw and her cub leave Silver Junction or face vagrancy jail. Helena squares her shoulders and asks under which statute feeding a hungry child is a crime. Dolan's reply is a thin smile and the promise that Whitlock's brand burns hotter than the sun. He walks out tapping his holster as if to remind the room of its weight. Nodin appears from behind the curtain, eyes wide, lip trembling. Aiyana kneels, brushing dust from his cheek. She whispers a promise she hopes to keep. They will not spend tonight under a jail roof. Thomas pushes through the kitchen door then, sweat darkening his collar, his repaired crutch tucked beneath an arm. He has secured work on the eastbound freight as temporary brakeman. The crew needs hands after the last run left a man with heat stroke. There is room in a boxcar, he says quietly, for a mother and child. Helena drops a wooden spoon with a crack. Running invites pursuit, she argues, and Dolan's rage will only grow. Thomas meets her glare. Staying invites jail, or worse once Whitlock's riders know. He turns to Aiyana. The train leaves at 3:30. The payroll safe will ride in the second baggage car, guarded by Finch and a new deputy. Not even a hint of a robbery passes his lips, yet the knowledge rests heavy in the room like outlawed dust. Aiyana feels the pull of 2 futures. One drags her south to the reservation, ration lines, and the agent's ledger. The other invites flight on iron rails toward territory unknown. She asks Thomas how far east the train runs. All the way to Santa Fe and beyond, he says. Wages paid in coin, not scrip, and no one at the division yards asks about tribe or past. He lowers his voice. Someone will need to couple the baggage car at the water stop 6 miles out. Finch never leaves his perch when the whistle blows. If a strongbox happened to vanish in the confusion, authorities might blame desert raiders. Helena slams her palms on the table. You think stealing from Whitlock will save her? That money is branded like his cattle. Any banknote traced back will rope you both. Thomas yields a tight smile. Maybe justice rides crooked roads. Maybe a wounded man and a hungry mother are already at the end of theirs. Aiyana sets fresh wash on the line. Cotton sheets snap in the breeze like flag signals. From the porch, she watches Dolan mount his claybank gelding and trot toward the depot, spurs jingling his foul mood for all to hear. Children chase a rolling hoop past the blacksmith, unbothered by grown-up storms. A church bell calls the hour. Aiyana notes how fast the shadows shift. Decision time draws near. She packs little, a worn blanket, dried cornmeal wrapped in cloth, Helena's tortillas. She kisses Helena's cheek, tasting the salt of tears Helena refuses to show. The boarding house keeper presses $2 silver into her hand, the savings of 3 months' rent. Look after the boy, she whispers. The desert is cruel, but people can be crueler. Thomas waits by the side door, coat buttoned over a frayed vest, his crutch freshly oiled to silence its squeal. Together they cross the freight yard, weaving between crates of barbed wire and barrels of kerosene. Sunlight glares off polished rails, turning them into twin blades slicing eastward through the sand. Steam coils around iron wheels as the locomotive sighs like a restless beast. They reach an empty boxcar and Thomas helps Aiyana lift Noden inside, hiding them behind burlap sacks. He presses a tin water flask into her hand. If the train lurches to a stop at Arroyo Seco, wait for the signal, 3 knocks. If no signal, stay hidden until Santa Fe. She asks what danger lies between. Only men with badges and the brand of a rancher, he replies, and tips his hat in farewell. The whistle wails, the ground trembles. Through a slat Aiyana sees Dolan stride along the consist, checking couplers, pistol bobbing at his hip. He pauses beside the baggage car, trading a joke with Finch, then swings aboard. The engine bell clangs, couplers clank, and at last the train rolls forward, sucking hot air past the boxcar door. Silver Junction slips away, its low roofs shrinking beneath red bluffs. Gallows poles silhouetted like a broken finger. Miles blur in rhythmic thunder. Noden dozes, lulled by the clatter. Aiyana counts telegraph poles, marking distance to Arroyo Seco. The land flattens into scrub plain. Sun flares mercilessly overhead. Each minute stretches longer than the last until the brakes screech, sparks flying. The train groans to a halt beside a lone water tank. Steam vents hiss like angry spirits. Footsteps echo on the roof above. The signal? She waits. Nothing. Then 3 rapid knocks on the boxcar wall. Heart hammering. She pushes the sliding door a handspan. Thomas stands below, crutch planted, face streaked with soot. He lifts a small canvas satchel, heavier than its size allows, and thrusts it toward her. Take it and get back inside. Stick to the floor until I return. Before she can protest, shouts erupt up the line. A gunshot cracks, echoing off dry hills. Thomas hurls himself beneath the car as Dolan's voice booms orders. Aiyana drags the satchel into the shadows. Through the door gap, she watches Finch run toward the rear, revolver drawn. Dust clouds swirl where horses appear, 3 riders charging from the wash, rifles leveled. Real raiders or hired distraction, she cannot tell. Lead winds over iron roofs, a window shatters. The engine screams a blast and lurches forward, wheels grinding for purchase. Thomas rolls clear, clutching his crutch, and clambers back aboard farther down. The baggage car door hangs open, the safe inside gaping like a pulled tooth. Dolan fires wildly at the riders, then scrambles for the ladder, unaware the predator has already slipped past. As the train gathers speed, Aiyana cradles the satchel. Metal edges press through canvas. Noden wakes, sensing danger, and buries his face against her. She whispers the lullaby of canyon winds her mother sang. Sound over sand, water under stone. Gunfire fades behind them, replaced by the steady, unstoppable rhythm of wheels seeking new horizons. Hours later, with dusk flooding the desert in rose and indigo, Thomas limps into the boxcar, bleeding from a crease along his arm, yet grinning like a man reborn. Dolan jumped at Arroyo Seco to give chase and took a horse north. The train never waited. News of a botched payroll robbery will ride telegraph lines tonight, but no one will suspect a one-legged brakeman and an Apache mother hiding in plain sight. Aiyana unwraps the satchel. Inside, stacks of greenbacks gleam in lantern light, more money than she has seen in any lifetime. Thomas watches her, breath shallow, as though waiting for judgment. She meets his gaze. This buys land, seed, milk for children who have none. It buys Noden a future where dry seasons do not dictate dignity. She ties the satchel shut and pushes it back into his hands. It is too heavy for me to carry alone. Together we will decide where it goes. Night settles deep across the rails. Beyond the door slit, constellations ignite above the desert, the same stars that guided her out of canyon country and him toward hope after factory floors and shattered bone. In the darkness of the rocking car, possibilities spread out like the tracks ahead, twin lines converging to horizons unseen, promising that nothing, not even the iron will of men like Whitlock, is truly set in stone. Dawn washes pale gold over the rail yard at Lamy Junction, a whistle stop outside Santa Fe, where eastbound freights change crews and take on water. Aiyana steps onto the cinder ground with Noden on her hip, the night's chill still clinging to their clothes. Thomas follows, coat draped to hide the bandage on his arm and the bulging satchel that never leaves his side. No deputies wait on the platform. No telegraph flutters with their names. Yet, so they move quickly past half-awake workers and slip into town just as church bells call the first mass. Santa Fe in 1880 is a hive of adobe walls, Spanish arcades, and wagon ruts worn deep enough to swallow a child. The trio duck into the back alley of a German tailor's shop, where Thomas once lodged during clearances. Herb Burchard peers over spectacles, startled to see a one-legged brakeman, a native woman, and a boy before sunrise. Silver buys silence. The tailor ushers them upstairs to a spare loft thick with wool dust. From the window, they watch the pink and cream horizon while Thomas explains what must come next. Telegraph lines will carry news of Whitlock's missing payroll to every rail office from El Paso to Denver by noon. Dolan's description will brand Thomas an accessory. Aiyana, shielded by race and gender, is unlikely to be named, but cannot risk arrest that might separate her from Noden. The money cannot remain in a single stack. It must be broken, cleaned, and reborn as something ordinary, tools, seed, train tickets, before it can buy a life. Thomas has a contact, an old Pinkerton named Mallory, who now brokers quiet exchanges for laborers fleeing company blacklists. Mallory's price is steep, but honesty costs more. They rest through the heat of day. Herb Burchard brings bread and boiled eggs. Noden plays with empty thread spools, racing them across the floorboards. Now and again he glances at the satchel, as though it hums with possibilities only children hear. Aiyana mends Thomas's torn sleeve, fingers working while her mind drifts back to canyon walls and the cornfield that blew away like smoke. She wonders if any stalk still stands, if her sister sings to the evening fire alone. The thought steals her resolve. She will not trade one cage, however gilded, for another. Near sunset they walk south along the Rio Santa Fe, following cottonwoods to a weather-beaten stable. Mallory waits inside, a burly man whose badge once made outlaws tremble. His eyes linger on Aiyana in a way that mixes curiosity and caution. His greeting for Thomas is curt. He breaks the bundles on a hay bale, examining serial numbers, calculating risk allowed. A robbery this fresh carries heat, but Whitlock prints his stock with bank stamps that can vanish under a banker's knife. For 20% he will launder the notes through mercantile shipments headed to Kansas City. The purified money returns in 3 weeks as drafts payable anywhere on the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe line. Thomas balks at the fee. Aiyana, recalling agent ledgers and withheld flour, sees another trap. Until the drafts arrive, they remain tethered to Mallory's goodwill, unable to move far. She asks instead for wagons, seed corn, and iron tools, items whose receipts draw no suspicion. Mallory raises an eyebrow at the audacity, but Silver talks. They settle on a wagon load of supplies waiting in the yards: plow blades, grain sacks, a milk cow, and 2 crates of canned peaches bound for a hotel that will never miss them. The exchange leaves nearly half the money intact, strapped beneath the wagon seat in a carpenter's chest. 2 nights later they roll north along the Pecos Trail under a crescent moon. Thomas drives. Aiyana rides the tailgate with Noden wrapped in a quilt, teaching him the Apache names of stars. Behind them, the distant clap of a locomotive echoes across plains, each report a reminder of pursuit. At a river ford they meet Tahoma, an aging Mescalero scout, who recognizes Aiyana's clan tattoo and agrees to guide them west toward hidden arable valleys beyond the Sangre de Cristo foothills, land rumored unclaimed by ranch syndicates. Payment is 2 tins of peaches and the promise that his granddaughter may share in the harvest come autumn. Days pass in dusty monotony punctuated by small omens. Vultures circling a dead steer branded with Whitlock's W, a stagecoach skeleton half buried in sand, boot prints that appear overnight around their campfire, yet vanish come dawn. Tahoma shrugs them off as restless spirits of the trail. Thomas checks the Sharp's rifle more often, oiling the breech at dusk. Aiyana feels a watchful presence too, a predator patient as drought. At the narrow pass of La Vida, they discover its source. Sheriff Dolan and 3 hired riders block the trail, horses lathered from a hard push. Whitlock's foreman recruited local law north of Santa Fe with a promise: recover the payroll or hang trying. Dolan's bandages are gone, but the wrist still twitches when he reins his mount. He calls Thomas a thief and Aiyana a decoy whore, vowing the boy will scrub jail floors until manhood. Thomas answers with the rifle balanced across the wagon sideboard. Dolan laughs, certain a one-legged fool cannot draw fast enough, but does not see Aiyana slip down the far side, vanish among pinyon shadows, and climb the scree with cat-like grace. Gunfire cracks, a warning shot from Thomas that shatters Dolan's hat brim. The riders scatter to flank the wagon. In the confusion, Aiyana appears above, rolling a head-sized boulder that thunders down the slope. It catches a horse at the knee, sending animal and rider tumbling. Chaos erupts. Tahoma fires a single arrow that lodges in a saddle horn, startling another mount into bolting. Dolan, exposed, wheels to line a shot at Thomas. Before his finger tightens, a slim knife flashes from behind. Aiyana's throw buries its blade in his pistol arm. The gun drops, pain blooming scarlet across his sleeve. He swings wildly, striking her cheek with the back of his hand, but the force upsets his balance, and he crashes onto the rocks. The riders, seeing their paymaster undone and low on ammunition, break for the open plain, leaving dust devils in their wake. Silence descends, broken only by Dolan's ragged breath and a remote peal of thunder over the range. Aiyana retrieves her knife, wipes the blade clean. Thomas limps forward, rifle still ready but eyes softening when he studies the bruise rising on her face. Dolan curses them both, promising the entire territory will carry their warrant. Aiyana kneels, searching his pockets, removing a folded telegram, payroll traced. Junction family offers 500 reward. She crumples the paper into the dying campfire, watching words curl into ash. Tahoma tends to the wounded horse. Its rider limps away, clutching a broken collarbone, too stunned to fight. Thomas lowers the rifle. "We could finish this here," he mutters. Aiyana shakes her head. Blood seeds more blood. Whitlock's reach ends when profit dries, not when henchmen fall. She turns to Dolan. "Tell your master the money feeds children now and plows fields beyond his fence lines. Tell him hunger cannot read property deeds." Dolan glares, but the fire in his eyes dims when he realizes he will ride back alone. They push on through the pass while storm clouds gather purple over the peaks. Rain begins as a whisper, then drums the wagon canvas, washing blood and dust from wood and skin alike. At dusk they crest a ridge and gaze upon a sheltered valley cupped by red cliffs, tall grass rippling like an inland sea. Cottonwoods trace a creek that glints in the last light. Tahoma nods once, approval etched in deep lines around his eyes. Land enough for corn and cattle, hidden enough to be left alone. They make camp by the creek. Thomas unyokes the team. Aiyana lifts Nodin off the wagon, his laughter ringing when he feels wet grass under bare feet. She tips the carpenter's chest, spilling coins into her apron before burying the rest beneath a cairn of river stones. Tomorrow they will stake irrigation rows, plant the first kernels of a future wrested from railroad greed and frontier law. Tonight they sit by a small fire using only damp sage for smoke, sharing peaches and syrup while thunder grumbles farewell to old lives. Above them the storm clears, revealing stars bright as hammered silver. Aiyana traces one with her fingertip, telling Nodin it is called Nanazuzi, the wanderer who never forgets home. Thomas listens, the satchel empty at his feet, and realizes the mystery that once pulled him down outlaw paths has shifted. It is no longer inside a strongbox or a telegraph wire. It rides in the quiet courage of a woman who crossed deserts for a crust of bread and found instead a horizon wide enough to contain her name. Sunrise spills over the valley like molten copper, and the still damp earth gives off a sweet scent of promise. Aiyana stands ankle-deep in the creek, rolling seed corn between her palms to test its dryness. Each kernel holds a season's wager. If the rains keep their word, if the plow team stays sound, if no syndicate surveyor stakes a claim on this hidden basin, the crop will carry them through winter. Behind her, Nodin chases grasshoppers while Thomas and Tahoma set the first furrows with a creaking wooden plow. Weeks bleed into months. The trio raise a sodden pine cabin against the northern bluff, roofed with canvas from the stolen wagon. Saplings from the cottonwood grove become fence rails. Iron plow blades turn raw meadow into quarter-acre grids. At night, Aiyana teaches Noden the stories of constellations while Thomas scratches ledger lines into a notebook, tracking seed counts, rainfall, the slow healing of his wounded arm. He never writes the sum that lies buried in river rock earth, but he visits the cairn often, as though checking on a sleeping child. Early summer brings the first real test. A dust plume uncoils beyond the pass one afternoon, resolving into a single rider draped in a serape. Thomas shoulders the sharps, heart thudding. Yet when the traveler nears, he lifts a hand in greeting and calls Tahoma's name. It is Santiago Morales, Helena's cousin, sent north with news. Whitlock has sold his ranch to a Chicago trust and withdrawn east. Sheriff Dolan, disgraced by the botched payroll, vanished along the Mexican border. Rewards have cooled. Still, rumors of an Apache woman and a lame railroad man homesteading lost Whitlock land circulate in saloons from Raton to Trinidad. Santiago brings letters. One from Helena describing thriving kitchens and a room kept ready, and one from her Burchard enclosing a folded bank draft. Mallory, despite his fee, kept faith. The laundered funds now wait at the Santa Fe office of the First National. Night deepens after Santiago's departure, yet no one sleeps. Aiyana and Thomas walk the furrowed fields under starlight, weighing the bank draft against the buried money. They could buy title deeds, hire hands, build a schoolhouse for scattered mescalero families. Or larger dreams. A dairy cooperative, a spur line petitioned honestly, a bridge between worlds that usually trade only bullets. Before dawn, Aiyana kneels beside the creek and lifts a pale stone from the cairn, revealing the satchel's weather-cracked canvas. She empties half the coins into the stream. Silver rings over smooth rocks, sparkling, then sinks out of sight. When Thomas reaches her, she offers the satchel, lighter now. Easy treasure breeds hard men, she says. Let the land, not the loot, decide who we become. He closes her fingers over the remaining weight, certain it is more than enough. Harvest comes early, husks fat and sweet. Mescalero families arrive in wagons to trade labor for shares. Tents sprout between cottonwoods, and children splash in the shallows while elders sing working songs older than the rails. In this chorus, Noden runs free, his laughter threading through the rows like wind chimes. One evening, Aiyana finds Thomas on the cabin step, crutch set aside, carving a wooden toy locomotive for the boy. He has whittled away the smokestack, leaving only the outline of a horse, iron yielding to flesh. She sits beside him, resting her head on his shoulder, and they watch lightning flicker beyond distant peaks, a reminder of storms survived. Late autumn delivers a final reckoning. A U.S. Land Office agent rides in with a survey crew, maps rolled tight, intent on verifying rumors of unregistered settlement. He dismounts, eyes narrowing at the patchwork fields and the mixed-blood community working them. His badge is brass, not tin, but its edge is sharp. Thomas greets him with coffee. Aiyana offers roasted corn. Tahoma stands silent, bow across his chest. The agent examines the draft from First National, the wagon bill of sale, the notarized deed, purchased in Helena's name, to a long-abandoned Spanish grant overlapping Whitlock's claim. Paper shields, each bought with pieces of stolen payroll, now transformed into lawful currency. The agent walks the boundary markers and finds them squared within the grant's ancient bearings. He notes the community barns, the school tent, the modest yield recorded in Thomas's ledger. At dusk, he stamps the deed, pockets his fee, and wishes them luck against early frost. When his party rides out, their wheel ruts slice the valley floor like scars, but fade by morning. Winter settles, crisp and silent. Smoke curls from the cabin chimney, carrying the smell of pinyon pine and bean stew. Inside, Noden traces letters on a slate, while Aiyana stitches blankets from flour sack cloth. Thomas fingers the Pinkerton bullet lodged forever in his crutch shaft, a souvenir of roads no longer tempting. Snow begins to fall, gentle as new cotton. The valley holds its breath, wrapped in white, seeded with stories, of a hunger that refused to beg, of money scrubbed clean by river water and honest toil, of law bent toward justice by those it once ignored. Beyond the ridge, rails still sing with freights bound east and west, yet their whistle sounds distant, almost dreamlike. Here the loudest music is corn stalks rattling beneath snow, and children learning songs in two tongues. Aiyana steps onto the porch in the hush of night, breath blooming pale, and searches the sky for Nanazuzi. Finding it, she closes her eyes and feels nothing pulling her onward, nothing chasing from behind. Only the steady hum of a place that, against every design of men with guns and ledgers, has learned to call her by name.